we regret to inform you that Griefus Pub has been delayed until next week. Have a great day.
I didn't think you were actually going to do it. There you go. It's stamped.
Skipped. This message has been brought to you
reading
by
some of the
Griefers.
comments here. Yeah, pretty much. So guys, hello and welcome to Griefers Pub. Today we're going to be discussing the release of the Anvil Super Hornet Mark II. That's a mouthful right there, right? And the Heartseeker variants, and whether it suffers from power creep and whether it's just for the sake of marketing. But before we get too far into this, let's ask ourselves this. What exactly is power creep? Elder, do you know what power creep is?
Each successive update to the game that adds new items makes the other ones obsolete. The older versions obsolete.
Are you just reading this? You're just reading this, aren't you?
No, I'm not reading. Why? Did you write that somewhere?
I wrote.
No, I mean, so I did. So I was over here. Basically,
Use
what was happening? No, I didn't.
ChatGPT. Hang on.
Wait, where's my brick of cheese?
What is power creep? What is power creep?
So I was sitting here freaking eating a brick of cheese, and I was like, "What is power creep exactly? Explain it to me." You know, so I don't know. Anyway,
okay.
And then he thought we were alive.
Actually, it would have been hilarious if we were alive talking about that, because then would have been a whole situation where it's just like, this guy doesn't know what we're actually talking about. And that's okay.
Power creep is a brand of cheese. No, power creep is like is like a dude who likes to watch people from the bushes while he weightlifts.
I was just gonna make the same joke. It's the guy that's in like the gym that's just like, you know, looking at you while he's, you know, doing like, you know, squats or something like that, just looking back at you, just like, hey, how you doing? Anyways, so we actually have a slide for this. We should go to the next slide before we get too off topic.
Next slide. This dude, you sound like it's the 90s or something. Next slide, please.
So what is power creep? Power creep is defined as new game content which makes older content obsolete, creating balancing issues and metas which players will gravitate toward to obtain advantage. Which,
oh my God,
know,
it actually said that.
Power cheese.
Power creep is defined as new game content. I didn't read that. Obviously, it's not exactly.
You didn't read it. Actually, we didn't share that one, but you had like the like right idea right on top of it.
I knew it the whole time. No, I know.
So the real question here though is not exactly what is power creep, but what are some of the like results of power creep? What can happen when you rely too much on this, like, you know, sales model where something new that comes out is going to take, you know, pretty much like control the skies. Is it actually a problem? That's what I'm going to ask, you know?
What are the results? Yeah. What are the results of power creep? The results are Spectrum posts that are on fire, Spectrum servers blowing up. It's not fair. I don't know. I mean, power creep basically ruins the balance of the game to begin with, because like they'll introduce something that isn't part of the balance, right? I mean, which is fair. I mean, it's not like, oh my God, it's, you know, we expect them to release something that's absolutely perfect, right? But it will destroy the balance for a little bit, and everybody will rush to it. And then you end up seeing basically one ship all day long. That's power creep. That's how it affects the game.
That's the biggest issue, is like the newer ships that are introduced are more effective than the existing and older ones. This will leave older ships to be underpowered and irrelevant for use. And that's the biggest thing, is that lack of diversity that we see in gameplay that we need, actually. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
No.
To keep this like whole sales model, because it's gonna
continuously happen.
It's not even the biggest issue isn't the lack of diversity. I would say it's more the gap, like overarching like gameplay balancing issues in the long term, and how that's going to affect, you know, gameplay, you know?
Well, so yeah, but the thing is that technically, the problem I have is that I don't see this model changing for them, because they found a way to successfully build a game and sell digital items. And it's like, in my mind, I feel like they're just never going to stop doing that. I can't imagine them. Yeah. I can't imagine them stopping it. So power creep works well with that. Right. I mean, if you sell a ship that's OP, It just makes sense. By the way, I was just going to throw it out there. If anyone wants to like jump into a call here while we're discussing it, feel free. We're not like we don't have
Yep.
a guest, so feel free to
Yeah,
jump
you can
into the Discord.
actually find the Discord link right there. Hop in anytime. If somehow like we don't notice that you're in the waiting room for like, 30 minutes waiting to have a conversation, just say something in global or like not global. Oh my God, been playing too much Star lately. Say something in the stream chat here and then we'll bring it up, and we'll discuss it. I'm just saying. So we are taking calls if you guys want to like hop in and ping in some of your thoughts or some of the ideas behind this. So
Yeah.
we're gonna move on though. We're gonna move on. So the question that I actually have is: are the new Hornet variants actually a glaring example of power creep?
Yeah.
Do we know?
Yeah, I mean they have been, haven't they? Think about it. What happened when the well, let's start with the was it F8C?
The F8C was a good example of power creep. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
because
actually going to be something we talk about a little bit
so
later.
they
But
were
still,
that
let's
was over
bring
a
it up
year
now.
ago, wasn't it? God,
That was 2023. Yeah,
the golden ticket. Holy crap!
or was it 2022?
No, it was 2023, and then 2024
It's when I
was
first
the
joined
Hornet,
Grim
right?
42. I know that, right? I think I
Yeah.
first joined you guys, and we were hanging out together.
Has it been
Yeah.
that long?
It's been that long.
I can't believe you're still around.
Happy anniversary.
After getting to know me. What the hell was I going to say?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the FAC I think was a good example of that, right? They needed to make sales. The F8A I think was what they promised, right? That they wouldn't release. Is that what it was?
No. So the F8C was one that it was an exclusive for being an executive edition.
Just the F8 in general.
F8C, just the F8C in general. I don't think they ever advertised the F8A, but I could be wrong. If I am wrong about that, say something in the chat or comments later. By all means, call us out.
Yeah,
I'm always cool with that. But I got a little off topic. So there's some good examples of like previous uses for power creep and
yeah.
how,
so they needed to make some sales, right? They said, "Oh, if you find a golden ticket, you can buy it." People went crazy looking for golden tickets.
I remember that.
Yeah, and then basically everybody had a golden ticket, multiples. It was no problem to find. Everyone was buying them, and the thing was absolutely OP when it first came out. I think for the most part, wasn't it?
It was for the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
I mean, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, do you remember when they had the PvP version of that, where if you fought over it, you could get an LTI one for free, and how crazy that was, but how fun it actually was?
That was cool, though. Yeah, that was actually
it's a cool concept.
Cool.
I really
it was
that.
a cool concept. It was terrible because it was nothing but a lag fest, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing this." and then ramming department got like 30 of them.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. Yeah, they had like what 3 or 4 by the end of it. I forget the actual numbers.
Yeah, they got a bunch.
But yeah, back on topic. So, what are some of the like? Do we actually think that it's a good example of like power creep? I'm just trying to get back on track here a little bit here. So we know that it has more TPS, more shields, more missiles, higher hull HP, but does it have any like pros and cons that we could like?
Yeah, I would say probably. Oh, what actually go over it? Do we have physical? Like, do we have the information up somewhere?
We do have the information up, but I think we should go to YouTube because there's actually this video that I just found where I have a feeling they're going to be like giving good advice.
What is up, you guys?
So I'm gonna bring it
Welcome back to the channel for another video. It is the biggest feathered bird in the verse. It is fried chicken. Today, we're going to be pitting the MK2 Super Hornet versus the MK2, the F7A in Arena Commander in another episode of Before You Fly.
Before you fly.
Well, we go over this. We're gonna do a TLDR version. We go through this, and then they don't even have the same components. They put them side by side. This guy has full fucking like CF repeaters.
So we didn't even use the same components for
not
comparison.
Even the same components. I mean, you can't really with the Hornet.
We need the Griefers Pub version,
like Heartseeker. The Heartseeker. The Heartseeker version has the ballistics on top, so it's impossible to do anyways because you can't. Those are what is it when they're fixed? You can't like interchange them. Right?
Oh, you're talking about the convergence or whatever, the weapon convergence.
No. You cannot like take off the actual gun itself. They are bespoke. That's the word I was trying to think of. Yes, thank you, Tom.
Bespoke. Oh, thank you, Tommy.
So they've got the bespoke ones on top, and then here's actually some like good details about like the stats, the pitch, the yaw, the roll, the speed. This they actually I
All right,
think
this is
did
good
well.
information.
This is
So
good information. So
okay,
then
I
we
mean,
go
which
over-
makes sense. Okay, the F7A, right? 56, 45, 150. I mean, so it's a little better.
A little bit, yeah.
I mean,
But
that's a
you're still
noticeable difference when you're flying.
You're
though,
still gonna get
realistically.
like outrated by like any small or medium fighter in that case, right?
Yeah,
Because
but it's not
it's
even really getting
detrimental
outrated.
enough.
So here's the thing, right? So you look
Yeah.
at the F7A stats, you look at the super stats. It's
Mhm.
rather meaningless because if you're being kited or backstrafed, you're fighting to push into them. You can't at a certain point. It's hard to outrate somebody if they can just keep distance. You see what I'm saying? I
It
don't know
depends
what
on
people.
the back strafe, which we will talk about on that. That is, I think, slightly adjusted, but yeah. So this whole video, I'm sure.
Why
it's
is
great.
everyone spiraling over YouTube banning
because
ad
I'm not using my
blockers? Like,
premium
chill,
account. Sorry,
guys.
guys.
Just
We
use
get
Pi. It's
an
a free
ad during the
chrome
middle of
extension.
Hilarious.
broadcast. Yay!
Maybe you
the
should have clicked into that.
F7A
It was a
I'm sure it was great. So
an ad blocker.
disclaimer. So they do a fight, but if you look close enough, when they're actually like getting into it, they're maybe about 1.5, maybe 1.7 kilometers away. It's pretty rough to watch too.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, I can't even believe he's hitting. Yeah, that's not a good comparison. I mean,
so they also have like low velocity. So looking back at so I'm just going to use this for the visual. On the top turret of the Heartseeker, these two top turrets right here are slower velocity. I think it's 1,000. We'll double check the numbers, but it's very slow for like ballistics. It's not like a Revenant, so it's not like gonna hit very quick if you have like a faster moving target. This is more intended, I think, for like larger ships.
what an exciting
fight. We're gonna move on from this. So I'm just gonna like bring up the pros, and we'll go over some of the stat differences between the F7A and maybe even like the Ghost to just kind of see visual comparison, right?
Yes.
So some of the what's that? Yes.
Darchi. I don't know if you're saying if I'm saying your name right.
Darth Vito.
Darth Vito. Oh, okay. So, well, I still find it interesting though that they didn't match up the weapons at least, right? Match up the velocities. If you're putting ballistics on the top, the ballistics have a lower velocity, and so that which means they'd have to be closer to be able to. Doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
That swag in the voice, that I don't give a shit attitude voice. Yeah, pretty much. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry for that.
Actually gone down. No, it's fine. It's fine. We're just kind of chilling here. So some of the pros: higher DPS. One thing that like Contagion brought up was better shielding. I think there was better hull HP. I got to just double check. 8 times size 1 missiles. It's actually in the top hard points. So the usual like 2 size 3s that you'd see on the F7A. In the center between that, there's 8 size 1 missiles. And then it has a second seat to pick up allies, which is kind of handy. Like say your ally gets down, you can go pick them up really quick, on the surface or like in the middle of space, and then get the hell out of there. And then strong against, larger ship classes. These are a lot of good pros, actually.
Yeah.
For the memes, I want to outfit.
Wait, but the Super Hornet was always trash.
6 pips. I'm sorry, I'm reading what Nolad's saying.
For the memes, I want to outfit 6 different pips. That'd be great.
Please take a picture so we can see that
nothing.
later.
Yeah, they have not. Please do it. Please. There is nothing that indicates which pip is for which. Too. It's well, I guess you could figure it out according to velocity, but
yeah, you could. Arky also says, if I remember correctly, they're 1050 milliseconds. Slower than Rabs, faster than Deadbolts, and 80 Gats, almost dead matched with attritions. So they're good for like, again, it seems like it's really intended for larger or similar sized targets, like other Hornets and like larger ships such as like say a Connie or something of the sort. Not necessarily for like light or medium fighters. And then this is just actually a huge thanks, by the way, from both Crooked Will and Black Opsy for helping kind of pull some thoughts together and brainstorm here. Some of the cons were lower and sluggish turn rates. It is just a slight bit less, but it's noticeable enough that when you're trying to get nose on target, that sometimes it's almost impossible to keep it. The ballistics are ineffective for the most part. Again, this is very circumstantial. This is more intended for slower targets. So if, like, say you're an Atmo, maybe not too bad. But ballistics are still in like a really bad spot where you need to have the shields down for them to actually like do.
Yeah, well, let me ask the
damage,
question though.
right?
This is more, so we're is this list more based on like a 1v1 type scenario?
I'm thinking like more 1v1s.
Yeah,
team fights, I'm not 100% certain. I haven't had enough time.
When I think of ballistics in team fights, I think they're much more useful if you're in like not a focused target. If you know somebody's going to be using EMP, right, you could potentially knock out their EMP with the ballistics through the shields.
That's true.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Ballistics are mostly junk, but there's seldom situations that they can be useful for because we've seen it work.
Maybe rephrase it. Maybe it's less of a like 1v1 situation and more of like a proper brawler, ship, as opposed to being more of a support ship, which it kind of feels like with those, loadouts.
We should ask Avenger 1, is ballistics effective against you? Because I know any other situation while you're in a snub, you're going to win.
Okay. So another thing that I also noticed, I was doing some testing in AC and PU, just kind of test some, signatures. It has a very high IR and EM signature. That's even with like stealth components on there.
Do we know what it's at?
we can actually take a look at that if you want to switch over. Just give me a sec. Let me bring up the right.
We can go back over it if you want.
Yeah,
we'll finish. Let's go back over it.
We'll finish our list here and then we'll kind of go over that. So it's a little bit weaker against light and medium fighters.
Aki,
Super Hornet.
Am I? Because it's not a snubber 100.
It's S tier. So weak against light / medium fighters, and then this is actually one that Black Ops you brought up, which I do agree with. It is kind of the worst application of a two-seater fighter, meaning there's better options out there. Why take this when you could also have the option of more firepower, more DPS, maybe even like better options, just like the Hurricane at that rate, because then you can get your your turret gunner a little bit easier on target. I don't know, that's personal opinion, but as like a single seater, it's not too bad. If you're just using it to focus primarily, you're not taking that much more DPS out of the field by sacrificing a second person, putting them in the seat of a turret.
I do have another question. So it's a two-seater where you lose control of the turrets without a second person, right? Which always seems odd to me.
No. If you have a second if you have a second person, you lose control. If you don't have a second person. If you don't have a second person, it's still pilot controlled.
Oh, you just don't have the full range, basically.
You don't have the full gimbal range. Like it's not going to be able to turn during the middle of a fight, which is actually kind of useful.
Yeah, which makes sense because didn't they had ships, or do they still have them where the remote turret does not work at all unless you have somebody in that seat, like the Scorpius.
Scorpius is a great example of that.
Yeah, like which doesn't make any sense because why? I always say this, if you go in the future, are they really not going to allow you to at least slave them to the pilot?
Makes you wonder. The original like Mark 1 Super Hornet had that ability to, allow a second person to control your top turret, which was handy, but pretty useless in most situations. Yeah. I think it's more of a great, like good pickup ship. You go into like, Clash, you need to pick up a buddy. You've got your Super Hornet, second seat, pick them up, get out, So it's kind of helpful in some situations.
Yeah, Still has been trying to convince me to get into that. Into the turret.
I mean, he's been trying to convince everybody to do that. So good luck. So yeah, we can go over to the next portion that you're like just asking about, where we're doing comparisons. I didn't adjust anything because I do want to look at the stock loadouts first, as useless as they kind of are. It's kind of good to take a look regardless. We're going to do an entire screen. Let me make sure I have the right one. So, which two do we want to compare is the question. Do we want to go with the F7A or an F7C Mark II? Or do you want to do a Ghost? I think F7A is going to be the one that a lot of people use. and it's almost comparable to the Super Hornet, right?
Yeah, they have 7A Mark II. Yeah,
okay, we'll do that.
I would say.
And then we'll do Super Hornet Mark II. Again, the Mark II Heartseeker is a little bit of a weird one because it's not like a standalone ship. It's more of a loadout, and how they set that up is a bit strange, but it works out.
Yeah.
Let me make sure I got the right one. This is the Tracker Super Hornet Mark II. There we go. So we can go down to some of these. Do we want to outfit them as if they like were set up for like say a meta loadout, or what should we do here?
Well,
do you have any ideas?
look at the. I want to see. We don't really have to load them out, but I'm thinking, what's the IR and EM like increase, like the base? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it will tell you what the buff is or the debuff, just based on the base itself. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Let me see if I can find it under this.
Like
Here,
I think the
signature modifiers. The
oh, there we
modifiers
go.
are what you're looking for, right?
Plus 13%. They're both plus 13%.
They're identical on this. So there's nothing different here. It's just one does have a higher.
Hold on though. On the slide, you said that the EM was really high.
That's because they have different components.
Oh, it has.
They have.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. I see. So it has like more.
Yeah, there is a little bit more. So this is just like base shit. I think we just outfit them with similar loadouts and see what we get. So maybe just full Panthers, Rhinos.
Yeah, I'd probably
Panthers.
do Rhinos. Well, you got size 4s, right? So yeah.
Yep.
Size 4s. I'm still happy that they actually made size 4s mean something, because I remember how trash size 4s were. It was so it was it made no sense. Like the increase in DPS and then but the fire rate or something, it was just terrible in the old flight model at least.
Okay. So those are all the same. I'll do the same over here. Just give me a second.
They did the right thing by giving pilot controlled EMP and QD to the Zeus MR.
So actually, quick question. While we're kind of working on this, maybe we could like
Contagion. I am sitting on your lap. Go ahead. Sorry.
Maybe we could ask everybody in chat which variants of the Hornet have they been using since these ones have dropped. Have they been doing the Super Hornet? Maybe the Heartseeker? Are they doing the Ghost, the F7A? Just kind of curious. We do have actual stats from like YouTube, but I'm just kind of, for the sake of conversation, wondering what everybody's kind of running right now. So this one also has like 3 shields. So are we going to do stealth shields or are we going to do competition? What do you want to do, Elder?
I typically always go for the competition. I don't go for stealth. When it's something that's really meant for DPS and being able to be in the battle, I don't typically do much for stealth. I do try to bring down the EM a bit, with just better components in general. But like some people are building with EM signature in mind, doing stealth components, but I personally don't.
I feel like it works against the person. I'm just going to do this game. People actually play this game sometimes when it's actually playable.
Yeah, people only play the pledge store. They don't really play the game. And Chris Roberts don't care.
Okay.
I mean, pledges keep coming.
Okay, power plants. We're going to do stealth, or you want to do competition for this one? Probably stealth, right? So we're going to go with Cirrus.
For what? Wait, which ship?
This is power plants.
Oh, power plants. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, I would do stealth as long as you got enough points in your pool,
Yeah, I gotcha.
And see, the good thing about ballistics is the fact that you don't have to use points in your power. But
so pretty much everything's stealth. I'm just doing like a pretty much, I would say, what was the word that we used? Like a PU build with using, store-bought like ship components. Just so it's kind of a little bit more realistic in that regard.
F7A with comp shields. I may buy the F7CM when it releases in the game or in the in-game shop, either for the turret or just for the second seat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool too. You got to consider, right? So we're always looking at this stuff purely from like a PvP perspective, I'd say. But things like that with the second seat are really cool for like players that want to like pull a friend in and say, hey, jump in the seat, so they don't have to pilot, give them an experience, let them check out what's going on with the game, go out and do some NPC stuff, PvE stuff. So
this is saying,
I mean, it's cool for that.
So here's the difference. This is about roughly 8,000 for EM. The IR is identical, but because you have that additional shield, it's 9,382. If you turn that off, we could like go into the power pips and actually like turn off a shield. I think it
wait.
What's
the power on the other one you got? On the left, the one that you did the stealth component on. Let me see the power.
The power is 2,000.
No. The power management.
Oh yeah, let me set that up. So it's pretty much the same. We could
okay.
turn off this.
And you got 2 additional. You don't have to turn it off. Why? Oh, to bring down the EM. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The downside to like having like full Panther and Rhinos on the F7A is that you don't have as high of a magazine for capacitors.
Yeah.
I think it's like 50 something from what I remember, maybe 45. I would have to double check that.
I wonder if they're going to do anything with the. They should definitely transition light fighter power management back to something that's more. Anyway, I mean, not to get off on that tangent.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. It's always a conversation that we could have.
Okay, yeah. I mean, why not use a stealth component if you have that extra power point anyway? Right. So what? Okay. So the EM 9,000 compared to 7,000. Swap that over to a stealth power plant on the right, or are you not going to have the power you need?
You're not going to have
-1. Oh, -1.
So this isn't actually like if you turn off that like
you're
life
perfect.
support, you're good. You're perfect. But if you use anything else, we're going to be in the negative, right? So this is actually. I don't know. You could always swap out that third power plant for maybe a stealth, still have like a little bit of a buff, but I don't know if it's worth it. If you're trying to sneak up, you're better off just doing that.
That's a good point. Have a Marine in the seat for boarding. Yeah, that's a good point to be able to like have that, because what it does is it makes them useful while let's say you have to fight your way there, right? Makes them useful. Yep. They're a turret, and then you can drop them and you can continue to make use of that turret.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, signature-wise, it's not too different at the moment, right? But cross-section, if you look at cross-section, it shows it's identical. But when it's pancaking, it has a larger like profile. So I don't know why that is.
We can't even trust those numbers.
I know, because you remember that one time we were in AC, and all the numbers were completely different from what we saw there, and then went into PU, and then it was completely different there as well.
Is it
just because it's like 2 different builds?
Is it a combination of the cross section with the higher EM that makes it more?
I think it's just the EM that makes it a higher signature. And again, it's not like that detrimental enough to say that it's a problem, because I could always like say take a little bit of power off from that, enough power off from weapons, and still have countermeasures where I'm still effectively like at a good distance here. But yeah.
Okay.
And then I mean. A few things that were different. Let's go to boost and ship axis rotation speeds.
Oh, that's cool.
So these are almost about
identical?
The same. I think.
What the hell? They are identical.
Both multipliers are identical, but the ship axis rotation, this is where it's different. So it's 140 for roll on the Super Hornet, 150 on the F7A.
Yeah, I mean they have identical like pattern, right? But it's obviously it's basically increased by 10. No, hold on. Increased by 5, 10. Yeah.
Bring me back up there.
Well, 4, 5, and 10. It's not a huge difference. And honestly, I really think if you're sitting in front of it and the person is really just kind of like stringing you along, you're screwed. You're not going to be able to outrate it. See, that's the problem that we have right now, is that with these small differences in like pitch rates and roll and yaw, it all becomes very meaningless because of the state of the flight model and your inability to push into them. So it really makes things rather worthless, right? So sure, if you're trying to push into them, you realize you can't, and then you create distance, sure, you can do that. Problem is that the moment you want to try to push in again, they can just go back into that whole pattern. But that's a 1v1 scenario, though.
Yeah, it's completely different game when it comes to like group fights.
Yeah,
like the brawlers are going to be a lot more effective because there's more in a small group, and as long as you're keeping like a tight, composition, you're pretty good. You'll be in a much better space than your enemy. So.
I mean, the game is definitely more of a team-based game at this point anyway. So, I mean, in that situation, I guess, but, you're not relying I guess, okay. So if you're third-partying somebody and you want to get right on them, right? You try to get right on them when you're third-partying them. Then the pitch and yaw rates and all that definitely make a huge difference because there's a lot of movement happening in front of you. And if your ship is sluggish, it's going to increase that amount of time it takes to down them. But if you get the right distance, and it depends on the pilot you're going against. Most pilots, they're not very aware of what's happening around them, and their movement that they're doing is solely based on the person they're directly aiming at. But an experienced pilot, they're familiar with the fact that I have people around me from different angles. I have to move different ways to try to make it more difficult. So it really just depends on who you're going up against as well.
That's true. I've been fighting in the PU, and then as soon as I tried to do the same thing in like EC, it was a completely different story.
It is, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That knows how to, extend distance and maintain that. You're pretty much in a bad spot. You're either going to get some like rate, but then you're going to, drain your boost so like fast that it's not going to matter. You're going to have troubles trying to stay on target as well. So it's
definitely a different story for sure. For sure. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Okay, so looking back at all this, I'm going to bring up the other window. Can we go back to the main screen here, and I'll get that like adjusted? Let's see.
Sure.
Do you think? Oh, excuse me. Do you think that the pros outweigh the cons? And it's been happening all week. Do you think
the pros of the? Oh my God! It's getting darker in your room. I'm like, what is it? I got it though. Don't worry about it. I got it. I just realized, like, oh my God, you got so dark. What the hell is it? The pros outweigh the cons for. Be specific. For which ship?
For the Super Hornet. Do you think it's worth grabbing one? Do you think it's
the pros outweigh the cons for sure? I think because of the state of the flight model. I think so. Personally.
Do you think it's a bad example or like a glaring example of power creep in that regard? Then I'm kind of mixed on this one because I feel like there's a lot of things that don't feel like super broken or like overpowered by any means. You don't have to like adjust it, just like adjust the lights, so it should be good.
I got you. You're good. It's not a big deal.
Look like I'm glowing.
You're not. No. You are glowing. Your eyes. Sorry. Your eyes are twinkling. All right. Anyway, I would say, from what I'm hearing, basically, I would say the pros outweigh the cons in general because the cons, they don't. What's the shield? What are we looking at for shields on it? It has two size ones
on the Super Hornet.
3 size ones.
3 size ones. Yeah.
3 size ones. 1 power plant. Yeah, I mean that's pretty good. And what are we looking at for the F7A again? How many?
It's
1 size,
2 size 1 shields, and then 1 size 2 power plants as well. I was wrong on the numbers. The size 1 I was thinking of was the Hornet Ghost for the F7C Mark II.
Yeah, the pros outweigh the cons because you got to think, especially if you do actually have somebody in the seat. If you have somebody in the seat, it's like, oh, sure, it's a better pitch and roll yaw inside the F7A, but what difference does that make if the person only has to roll to keep their turret on you, right? So you're constantly be able to hit them at that point, right? But even if you're alone, you still have the ability to really kind of like string out the fight and kite it out. And unless somebody's been spending a lot of time practicing and learning how to deal with those situations, and I mean quite a bit of time, you're pretty much going to be screwed if you're in the Hornet. That's my opinion. I'd rather have 2 people in F7As than 2 people in a Super Hornet. That's true.
We do bring that up.
That's true, yes. But if it's 1v1, I would probably put it more on the Super Hornet in that case, right? No, I agree, because if you have two Hornets, yeah, the Super Hornet's screwed. Yeah, no, you're right about that for sure. Oh, wait, who's that? Nox? Didn't Nox get like beat up by Arcane like 20 times?
3 times. It was a 3-0. It was rough to watch.
Oh man. Who? All right, anyway. I'm just messing around.
It's that FPS guy that nobody he needs to get an Uber every time he needs to go somewhere, right? No. I was gonna say, so I want to bring this back into a little bit of focus. What are better examples of power creep in Star Citizen? I personally think that it isn't super far off from being balanced. It feels like they kind of came into this by reducing some of the turn rates to get it somewhat balanced, right? Like it's not as good as the F7A, but it isn't like completely useless like some of the other ships that they've recently released, like the Guardian.
Well, hold on though. Power creep describes when something's first introduced, but wouldn't power creep be more like long term also? Where so if something comes in, when something comes in, it tends to be a bit OP. Not always, right? That's obviously not always universally true. But there are a lot of scenarios we've seen that, right? Where a new ship comes in, it just dominates, and then they start tweaking the knobs as the sales goes down. Right?
Firebird.
Firebird is one of
Firebird.
them. But, I mean, if we're gonna think of, but also if we're gonna think of like ships like the F7A, the F8C, and then there were some others like the Scorpius when that first came out. That thing was pretty ridiculous too. It moved like a light fighter almost, if I remember correctly.
I remember that. Yeah.
It was crazy. It was
even the
dangerous.
Do you remember when the missiles came out before it had a bubble shield? And how bad that was for a long time.
Oh my god, was that 2 size 2 shields too?
I forget what it was. They reduced something.
Well, they made it facings for a while, right? But so I mean, power creep in a sense where if something comes out and then they adjust it, fine. But power creep in a sense where it's like long term and they just kind of like everything new, it always ends up being better, and it's like it makes everything old useless. That doesn't happen in things like specifically things like the Gladius, because it's like their flagship light fighter, right? And they always want to adjust it and use it for testing. But in general, I mean, power creep, I don't think is ever a good thing. No. Because if
in
something,
the things, it's not.
But basically what ends up happening, right, is something comes in, right? Everything's at this level. Something comes in and it's at this level. So there's two ways they can do things. And typically I think they always end up kind of going this way. They either bring everything up to that level or they bring this down to their level, right? And typically I think progressively through time, things keep raising the ceiling. So if you think of it in like through that perspective, it all ends up being basically the same anyway, honestly.
Yeah.
Sure. So I don't know. I mean, I'm at this point in time, it doesn't really mean anything. None of it means anything. They're planning on switching from mass modes to operator modes, whatever the hell that means, right? And they want to make adjustments to the flight model again and change it around because nobody was happy with it. So it's like all this balancing for what?
I'm reading what Arky said here. Arky mentions, honestly, in comparison to earlier ships like the Firebird or F8, honestly, power creep is really small. And I do agree. In comparison to like earlier sales, it's not that bad. Other MMOs have had much worse power creep, make them regret not getting the expansion.
I'm so glad I just finished that drink.
I heard that. I heard it as it like slowly.
It was like
rolled away,
like the weird can. I just finished the rest of it and then spilt like little drops on my mouse. This, my friends, is why I don't ever put it on top of this mini fridge of a tower I have, because that
just falls over.
Yeah.
So, last question. Excuse me. Does this marketing tactic of using FOMO and power creep seem predatory at all?
Yeah. I don't know. I think
so I've got a girlfriend that works in marketing, and she had said that is sketchy as hell. And she works in marketing, and that speaks volumes to me. I mean, even knowing like how it was before, it's one of the biggest parts of CIG that I'm not a huge fan of.
Well, okay, but
they do that. Like it's just feels scummy,
Yeah. So to be fair, I mean, it feels that way, right? To be fair, a company, especially one that literally relies on these sales, is going to use the tool they have available to them to make something seem more attractive in order to sell it so they can continue with the development, right?
Yeah.
So it's an available tool. I'm sure it does increase sales, and I'm sure I don't want to sit here and say, 100%, CIG does this on purpose, but they know if they know it works, they're probably going to be doing it. I mean, let's be real. I don't put it past them. I don't think any company that needs money is not going to make use of something they have available to be able to make that money. So probably is somewhat, I don't care. I don't buy anything they put out brand new anyway, and I'll wait. And I'll use store credits, money already spent. So
I mean, that's pretty much, I'm in the same spot there. Like for a long time, I used to think, I need this, I might need this. And then, a few years later down the line, you're just like, why did I buy that in the first place? Right.
Yeah.
It is that FOMO. It's that like seek for like a meta. And then I think I'm down to like 3 main ships that I really like to use on my main account. And I'm just going to stick with that. No new like money until they figure that stuff out. Otherwise, I think.
Yeah. I haven't been spending any new money either. No. Yeah. I've been juggling ships at this point. I have ships that, like, if I'm not using them, I'll just sell it to store credit, whatever, and I get enough to be able to buy maybe if it's a bigger ship or something, But I haven't been spending any new money. I would say if you're not shankers, right? You just juggle your ships. I mean, honestly, I don't know what the limit is on that, but.
Just shift it out as much as you can. If you're getting bored with something, don't buy something new, or just try to buy it in game. Honestly, it doesn't take that long.
I know it. I know it takes a little bit to come out in game. See, that's the one thing that I think they're pretty fair about, right? I have no problem with the fact that they're saying if you want it first. I don't have a problem with it because it's the funding model to begin with, right? And we're all aware of it. So if they're to say you want it first, you got to buy it off the store, and then it's going to come out in game. The fact that they don't, that I know of, hold anything from being bought in game indefinitely. Do they? Is there anything that you could think of
that you can't buy in game? F7A.
Is that it? That's it though, and that was like an exclusive upgrade, depending on, the lightning. Okay.
Yeah, there's only a couple of exceptions as far as I know. You can earn the F7A though. Rensept actually does bring that up, and that is true. Executive hangers
so there
are
you
a great
go.
way to do it. Same with F8.
See, I think that's where they redeem themselves, is the fact that they at least give people the opportunity to get these in game. 16 pick Fury, Fit, the Kraken, or we fry it. Okay, that's F8 and F7A, but you can earn them now. Yep. So again, the fact that they do that is pretty redeeming, I think. So yes, there is some predatory practices potentially, depending if it's on purpose or not, which
it's hard
I think
to say
we're all suspicious,
because otherwise it shows that there's such a disconnect between the testing and balancing between concept and release.
Yeah.
Or it also could imply that it's intentional. They want someone to buy the ship, and they slowly let their live service team balance it out.
But realistically, hey, if you're willing to wait, right? People experience FOMO and they want things now, right? Yep. That's not on CIG, because knowing it's going to be released in game for you to be able to do. Like, you can be patient. I've done that. I've been patient. Just waited. Like, I bought things in game, and when there hasn't been a whole lot of wipes realistically, right? So just wait. You know what I mean? That's
not as many as there used to be. Do you remember when every other month was a wipe, or every other day there was no persistence?
Now it's like they're avoiding wipes like a toddler.
Have you seen Spectrum? There's a reason why. All right.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I like wipes personally. I think that it makes the game interesting. It creates a reason for us to play. When everything becomes overly saturated, the finances and everything like that, the economy is overly saturated with the money due to duping and all this. It takes away the purpose of playing. So
I think that's just a lack of proper economy and
Yeah.
getting that set up. But that's a conversation for a whole different time, you know.
But you know what? That's why we need wipes right now. And until they can get the economy working correctly and all this, then in the meantime, they should wipe while they work those things out. And honestly, the people who hate the wipes, they end up coming back and playing more as a result. So
sometimes.
Yeah, I think so. They go back in, they start grinding because they don't want to be broke again. So I think that's what's happening anyway, personally. So you need greater money sinks. They do, but CIG can't commit. Yeah, they do. You need like epic items, you know, rare items. Like you need all this stuff for people to work for. And I think exec hangers are a good like movement in the right direction for stuff like that. Let's see. Economy needs to have purpose, otherwise wipes. Yeah. Exactly. The economy doesn't have a whole lot of purpose. There's not much for money sinks within the game. So wipe. I hope they get that moving. Sorry, go ahead.
Can I actually bring up, before I forget about this and before we take off, can I bring up a couple of polls? And then just a reminder, again,
polls.
guys, if you want to bring yourselves into the Discord, and if you have like any questions or you want to discuss something really quick before we, conclude things here, by all means, like pop in, come say hi, ask a question, maybe get an answer, and we'll just play it by ear from there. So this is a couple of questions that we had. Will the new Super Hornet and Heartseeker Mark II, this is kind of a prediction, we didn't know at the time, suffer from power creep? This says yes, more DPS and shields. Nah, CIG will balance it. I think they actually did okay this release. I think I'm kind of in the same camp as Arky with saying that it's, it's not the worst, but it kind of feels like it still has like the components.
It has
I think
piece of it.
More it has a piece of it. I think it's the components itself. Like you could take off like the size 3s now a lot easier from the top turret and put that on the top of a ghost and have better accessibility to it rather than reaching out to a friend or something else. And then this is just another poll kind of saying which Hornet Mark II is your weapon of choice right now. The F7A still seems like it's kind of king. Put the tracker on there just for the memes. I don't know who voted for you, but bless you. And then we have the Hornet Marcos, which gets like 17%.
He says, "I don't know who voted for it, but bless you." 1%. That's
one
great.
This one had 69 votes, by the way. Nice. So 17% with the Ghost Mark II, and then the Super Hornet Mark II was 19%.
That one guy.
So, that one guy.
That was Nox. Nox, that was you. Come on.
I need my co-pilot.
I don't know why I'm teasing Nox. I think it's like reverse psychology. He goes, no, it's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Bless your heart. He says, bless you. That's great.
Let me just review this here. So I think that concludes
that does it. Yeah, that does it.
I think that does it. So I just want to say thanks, guys, for coming out and joining us for today's podcast. I know it's a little bit earlier than usual, but the positive side is that now you have the rest of the night to just kind of chill and play the game.
This is more of a YouTube channel, for being real. Honestly, this is a YouTube video right here. So obviously I love that, like, even we got like 20 people on right now, but the chat stays active. It's like my favorite part. I've seen people with like 100 and the chat's not this active, or it's like they're all spamming the same stuff, which is kind of sus. It's like CIG owns the chat or something, trying to like inflate those numbers.
But yeah. Speaking of YouTube, this one's going to be available tomorrow. I'm going to have it all posted by about noon. So, guys, if you haven't checked it out, I'm going to post a link in there. Go check it out. Go show some love to our channel, if you would, please. We'd love to have you over there. And then I think that's it. I'm going to say good luck back in the world, griefers. We got to find a better like clossing statement. That one just doesn't sound right.
That was so cool. That was so cool.
So cool. No, it's like the
good luck back in the world, griefers.
Civilian. All right, and then if you guys have someone in mind that we can go raid, let us know, and we're going to we'll chat it out in the chat. You guys can kind of fight about it there, chat PvP a bit.
We need to what we need to do? We need to like truly be like true griefers and like drop off a like griefing crowd on like the most bobbiest bob of streamers and like just build that hate I hope they go back and watch this.
Hang on. I've got someone in mind for that. Tom Hanks.
Does.
There we go. There's your.
He over here. You talk smack.
No.
Tom Hanks.
We'll send you guys over to Tom. Tom's cool shit. So stick around, guys, and we'll catch you guys later. Have a good week and catch you next time.
Good night and all that fun stuff. Goodbye.